Thank you, Steve. Thanks. Great to be with everybody. Did you get everything you needed from Shane? Good. Yeah, I was going to say you're not going to get that from me. But no, I'll tell you, we're obviously here to focus on the stadium project, but wow, it's been a great few days for all Gamecock Nation, going back to Friday with the Nike announcement, and of course, getting the positive result or the positive news from the NCAA regarding Faison's eligibility. Really excited for him. And then yesterday, just with the final approval from SFA, just a huge moment for us. We've been planning for this for a long time regarding the stadium project, getting that formally approved, having it on the books, and now being able to to execute our plan. So just a few comments on that, and then I'll, of course, answer any questions you have. But I think the thing about this project I'm probably most excited about is what we're going to accomplish as far as touching every fan. And a lot gets talked about the premium seating component, and there certainly is that, and I'll get back to that. But when you think about the stadium, there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of things to fix regarding the student experience, regarding the fan experience, and we're going to solve for a lot of that. So when you talk about the circulation around the stadium, the ingress, egress. You talk about restroom count, which is incredibly low, historically low, the worst possibly in the country as regard to women's restrooms. So we're going to solve for that. But just the restroom count overall, you talk about concessions and what that experience looks like. A lot of efficiencies or inefficiencies that exist in the stadium we're going to solve for. So our team, Populace and Legends, our internal team have just done a fantastic job getting us ready for this moment. I'm really excited about what we're going to do in the team spaces. I think if you're going to do a project like this, you got to make sure you're always, keeping the student athletes front and center, and what we'll do to enhance their experience as well. What we're doing to enhance their experience, I think, is really exciting for our team and for future Gamecocks. And then, last but not least, the premium seating. It's well documented. We're last in the league in premium seat count per capacity, and so we need to solve for that for a number of reasons. One, you want to be able to provide those opportunities for your donor base and for your fans. But two, it's unrealized revenue, and as you step into a completely new world in college athletics with the rev share era, as we like to call it, these are finding a path to sustainability is going to be critical for any school, especially us. And so this is in large part going to help us solve for that, and also support all of our other sports. So this isn't just a football project. This isn't just something that we thought would be a good idea. There's a lot of things we're solving for in this. And so I'll start back at the top. I mean, we wouldn't take on this project if we didn't feel like we had the best partners in the country involved. And so when you're talking about a Populace, you're talking about Legends, you're talking about a contract construction in Manhattan, we have the best in the business. It's what our fans deserve. It's what our players, our student athletes deserve. And so we were very intentional about finding those key partners to help us get started and execute this vision. So with that, I'll stop and answer any questions you have.
As far as some of the things for the student athletes, what can you share about what some of those specifics might look like?
So really focus on their team spaces. Right now, there'll be an update to the locker room. A lot of the spaces they find they're in. So naturally, we've got kind of a really cool setup because we've got this facility as well. So we have two locker rooms, but as it relates to, we will not touch this facility. They'll be all team-focused area inside Williams-Brice Stadium. So we're still developing those areas, but those areas need a refresh, and so we want to make sure that there's not only for current student athletes, but for recruits when they're in that facility as well, that they're seeing our best foot forward. So more on that, you'll start to see. Those renderings haven't been developed yet. I know you've probably seen some of the things that were released today, but that's a big focal point of this project, is to make sure that we address their needs and make sure that not only our current team but the future Gamecocks, that's a space they're really proud of.
Jeremiah, once the final home game of this year is played and you can start construction, what is the first thing that you guys are going to do? Like this is the first project that will be completed.
So the way it will work is there will be no seats affected for the next two seasons, for 25 and 26. And so a lot of the things that will happen in the off season are going to be the vertical circulation, a lot of working on the so-called the guts of the stadium, if you will, to prep it for the following year where we really get after the premium seating area. So, our construction team led by Greg Hughes has done a really good job of trying to find as minimal disruption as possible for our fans. I think anytime you do a project like this, it's not going to be perfect in that regards. There are going to be some things that we've got to work through, but I think we've got a really thoughtful plan to ensure that there's as little disruption to not only the fans in game, but also, pre-game and going, walking the concourses and restrooms and that type of thing. So more on the exact specific timing, because we're still working through some efficiencies there, but we really feel good about what that looks like. Hey,
So,
Jordan.
how are you? So no seats will be displaced until this 2027 football season?
Correct.
Okay. And then in one of the things you guys presented to the Joint Bond Review Committee, it said the end of timeline construction will be completed in August of 28. I think that's a change from when this was first announced. What has come up that kind of has extended your guys' timeline?
Well, I think, and again, we're still finalizing those plans, but I think at the very tail end of it is when you start talking about some back of the house type stuff. And so whether that's loading dock, visiting locker room, we're kind of looking at what makes sense to how to sequence those. So, we feel really good about the timeline. You've obviously got to save room for the season. And so I don't, I couldn't address your question specifically as to what changed there. We've had a lot of changes, but we felt the plan that was ultimately presented was the most efficient to get through the multi-year construction.
Hey, Jeremiah, you talked about that this project is going to touch on every part of the fan base. I'm curious, how important was it for you when you first learned about this project to make sure every fan gets a better experience moving forward? And can you just kind of take us through any more information you have on what the fans are getting out of this?
Yeah, sure. So, this is an unbelievable game day experience. And I think, I just got out of SEC meetings a week ago, and I just had a conversation with a few of my colleagues who shall remain nameless about what the best, for a couple of us in the league, we were talking about what are the best game day environments. And three of them unsolicited said, well, I'd start in South Carolina. I'd start there. And so we know what we have, but I think a lot of our fans, they come here because they love the Gamecocks. They come here because they love Gamecock football, and this is a part of their, it's in their DNA to do this. But I think sometimes they're doing so, they're not having, if you really put some truth serum into them, they're not having a great experience as related to some of the things. And so the easiest way to positively impact those spaces are those wait times, how they're getting into the stadium. One of the studies that Populous did, our architect, was they take a look at a lot of these areas and they evaluate them on person per square feet. Well, this won't shock anyone, but a lot of those spaces were like 1-to-1, one person per square foot, which is, it's not even below standards, it's like horribly below standards. And so we wanted to help solve for some of those things. Candidly, as much money as $350 million is, and it's a ton of money, we all know that, we probably could have done a lot more. So we wanted to make sure that we right-size this into our budget, but we're hitting a lot of birds with one stone. So the concourses is a big issue. Wait line and concessions, restroom count was one that kind of jumped off the page at you. There's some places we're okay as it relates to men, but for women across the stadium, a big theme was we are well below an acceptable standard there. So those are some of the big ones. Obviously, the 2 new video boards will be great, especially for students or those that are in the north, towards the north side of the stadium, facing south. Those will be 2 great benefits for them. So a lot of things that relate to circular congestion coming in out of the stadium. That was a big thing we heard, was where the visiting team is locker room. That provides a lot of congestion, and so it really affects the circulation outside the stadium and in. So helping solve for that too, we felt like would be, not that we're trying to do the visiting team any fans, but relocating their locker room actually helps solve for a lot of issues.
I think some SEC teams take pride in having really bad visiting locker rooms. So
Sure.
I don't know if that's something to consider.
Sure. We're not planning to paint them pink or anything like that. So or turn up the temperature. But the facilities will be fine. But relocating them was a big part of this.
Yeah, within the information you guys put out, there's mention of creating more of a year-round type of a venue. Can you speak to some of what y'all have in mind? I would guess potentially soccer games, concerts
Sure.
that have been here in the past.
So right now there's no truck access to the field, and so if you were talking about a big concert, for example, I was not here for it, but the Beyonce Jay-Z concert a few years ago, everybody still references that. We talked about the soccer game a summer ago. We can attract. There's a lot of competition out there for those types of events. So we need to make sure if we want those events to continue to come to Columbia, that you've got the premium seat offering, because that's what a lot of these fans want. But also the access to the field is critical as well. And so, that was not easy to do. And so solving for that will help open the eyes to promoters and other opportunities. But also the premium spaces that we will develop. So many people, it's in their DNA. I said this earlier, because they love this school. They want to be here. They want to celebrate those big moments here on campus. And we've got some really nice facilities. But when you talk about, and I'm sure you've seen some of the renderings for the new club space, the new founder space, those are spaces that people are going to want to come and do retreats. They're going to want to come and do receptions. They're going to want to come and do luncheons. They're just going to want to be around Williams-Brice Stadium more often. And we're going to provide a better venue to do that with, more accessible venue to do that with.
Sticking with club spaces, I was wondering if you could speak more to what something like the student club would be.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So we're still developing those plans, but what I can tell you is the Floyd building that used to be the football operations building will be replaced by a student club that will be able to be used 365 days a year. We're really excited about that. The president, the board, we're also very excited about that. Air-conditioned space. So not only a space where they can get a little reprieve from the heat, perhaps on game day, but a space that they could also come to use for other events throughout the year, a place they can kind of call their own, if you will. So we actually saw the first renderings of what that looks like yesterday. It got me really excited because it's a space that's very functional. It's a space where they can come and have, like I said, student-led activities, but it's also a space they can come and have fun and get out of the heat when there is heat, or the rain when there's rain, and enjoy their experience. Because eventually, we want those kids to have such a great experience that when they graduate, they want to come back. They want to be season ticket holders. They want to donate to the university. They want to bring their kids here, when they have kids. And so, part of that is incumbent on us providing a good experience when they're here.
Hey, Jeremiah. Back when the stadium renovations were first talked about, they were kind of part of a bigger package that included development of parcels of land near Colonial Life Arena and also one over by the river. Where do things stand with those projects?
Great question. So we are also making progress on what you're referring to as an adjacent stadium district, multi-use space there. And so more news to come on that. But I would just tell you, just on the macro level, it's very exciting if you're not only an alum, or if you live in Columbia, if you're a South Carolinian, to think about investment coming into this space at that level. And so I suspect that we're making great progress there, but a lot of interest in utilizing that space. I'm just talking specifically about the stadium. But there's a lot of opportunity, and we'd like to see these areas and these spaces used more than just 6-7 game days a year, and this will certainly do that. This is not us telling the world there's an opportunity. These groups have done their own independent research, and they see the opportunity here. So more to come on that. I really can't talk just for confidentiality reasons, but I would just tell you that those plans we're quietly working very hard and with pace there to get a more further developed plan for that.
Do you envision a scenario in which there's construction going on inside the stadium the same time as there's construction outside the stadium for that bigger project?
Yes, I think that if you look at this as a multi-year construction project in the stadium, I think it's very reasonable to conceive that would intersect with some construction going on outside. But we don't. We're way early on that, but I think that's very reasonable to think we'd get there.
And as far as the student club you were talking about, Is that going to be like a dining hall or something? Like, are kids just going to be able, if it's a random Monday, could a kid drive up to the stadium and come in, hang out in there, grab something to eat?
Well, we'll have to lock it. We'll have to program it. Great question, Jordan. I think we probably won't have a full-time food service out of there, but it'd probably be one of those things where if it's a student-led organization, it could come rent the space, use the space, obviously provide food and catering, that kind of thing. But just if it would be available to all students is the point. So it wouldn't be kind of unlocked 365. We'll have to program that, and of course lock it. But we're meeting with Courtney, who's the student body president, I think next week, and we're going to start talking about how we program that.
I guess one more with the student amenities. How much of conversations with the student government went into what was chosen as the upgrades for the students?
Well, a fair amount. I mean, I think they were, when we presented them with the concept, when I talked to Courtney about it, I mean, she was thrilled about that. I think we all know the need for it. And by the way, for the plan would be for next year, for 26. The club won't be completely finished. It'll be shelled out, but it won't be fully air conditioned. So it'll be 27 before it's fully complete. But the students, and I've spoken to many students about it, are really excited about this. I think it's we will be, and don't I'll reserve the right to correct myself down the road. But there's not many schools in the country. I don't want to say the only one, but there's not many schools in the country that have something like this. So being the first or one of the first was really important to us to provide that and give ourselves, be able to promote that and to sell that not only to our current students, but kids that are thinking about coming here to South Carolina. All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate the time.